charm, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1.
Line drive to the base. Just as the score the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throws. There's a long drive. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run! The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
long drive to left field. Weaver. Gets it back. Home run.
Bases loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the show. I am Dan Scott. Good to have you along with us on this Thursday, another kind of overcast, misty morning here in the upstate, but it's a great day to be alive. Good day to be here talking sports with you for the next hour. I think we've got a pretty good show lined up for you, some Southern Conference talk where Furman is concerned and beyond as we take a look at the last weekend of the regular season from a basketball standpoint and get you ready for all the different possibilities that will lead to what we'll ultimately see as the seeding for the tournament in Asheville next week. Of course, we have baseball in Raleigh this weekend as Furman goes up to take on North Carolina State. And excited to have Billy Davis with us after being away for a while, working with Franklin Graham, of course, at the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Samaritan's Purse. He's on the road quite a bit, but back with us now, so we'll get a chance to talk some sports, but also get a chance to talk about the ongoing preparations for the funeral and everything else of Dr. Billy Graham, who passed away yesterday at age 99. He's right there in the middle of all that and can give us some perspective there. But anyway, we'll talk to him, and we will also talk about a potential rule change in the world of Major League Baseball. It would be a fabric-shaking, foundation-shaking rule if they were to make such a change. And we'll kind of clue you in on that, and you can bet that I'll have some thoughts on that. That'll be toward the end of the program. But wanted to check and see how you're doing this morning. You know our goal, if you've been off to a good start today, we don't want to do anything to mess that up. And if it's been a little bit of a slow start, maybe we can provide something of a lift for you. And the goal each and every day, above and beyond anything else, is to learn something we did not know by the time the show is over, which is, again, always easier for some of us than it is for others. Preparing for an interesting weekend of travel as far as the job is concerned. And when you work at a school, and especially a small school with small staffs, and crossover sports season hits like it does in the spring, when you have the winter sports that are still going but coming to an end, and the spring sports, which are multiple, starting up. You know, there are 2 or 3 weeks where everything's going on at once, and it really stretches the staff thin. And our game ops people here, sports information office people here, put in so many hours anyway, but this time frame really stretches them to their limit. So I qualify what I'm about to say from my standpoint by saying I'm not nearly under the stress that they are under, but this weekend's schedule for me is going to be fairly interesting. Friday, tomorrow, we'll be leaving with Tom Van Hoy and driving to Cullowhee for basketball against Western Carolina. That's a 7 o'clock start. Driving back, it's just about 2 hours, maybe a little less from campus. Getting up at the crack of the rooster on Saturday morning, heading to Raleigh for baseball, which will be on our flagship station, Fox Sports 1440, Furman and NC State, the middle game of the 3-game series. And then on Sunday, I'll be driving back after that baseball game. On Sunday, getting up and heading to Johnson City to do basketball, and the regular season finale is Furman and ETSU get together. So it'll be a fun weekend of travel. And then next week, of course, baseball midweek. And then at the end of the week, we have the Southern Conference Tournament. Furman is locked into a Saturday game. And as we get into a dissection of the schedule coming up here in a little bit, we'll be getting into their likely game time if things break the way we hope they're going to break, or if they don't break the way we hope they are going to break. So we're going to talk about all of that coming up in the next segment when we get into the Southern Conference breakdown. As always, though, Our show is brought to you by the folks at the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza, just down the road from campus here. Jeff Massey and his people do such a fantastic job with the food, the quality of the food, the quality of the service that you get. We don't talk about it a lot, but we should. Catering, group meals, team meals, so many of the visiting teams that come in here order pregame meals or in-game prior to game snacks or post-game box dinners. They take advantage of the great food and the ability to get all that done and get it done at a high quality at a great price. That's what Jeff Massey and his people do, and so many teams that come in here take advantage of that. And we have teams here on campus, Furman teams, that will go there for pregame meal ahead of competing here when they're home. So if it's good enough for coaches to feed their student athletes before or after they play a game from a nutrition standpoint, you know that it's good enough for you. So check out the Atlanta Bread Company. Tell them you heard about them here on the show and thank them for what they do to support our program. A little more about them coming up here in this commercial set. And then when we come back, we'll start getting into the Southern Conference schedule and take a look at the standings and let you visibly see how all these things shake out on the screen. This is the Dan Scott Show. We are live here in the studio today at the football building at the radio booth here overlooking Paladin Stadium out towards a hazy, foggy Paris Mountain. And we'll be back in just a moment. The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
Holding, number 79, defense, first down. I'm also holding a party tonight.
Great call by the official. Looks like we've got another flag on the field.
Holding, a Pepsi. Necessary refreshment.
Hey, Ted, bring some of that Pepsi to my party.
Pepsi and the NFL. Welcome to the Fun Doesn't End Zone.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championship presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, welcome back to the show. I am Dan Scott. Thank you for joining us as we continue here on this edition of the program. Coming up in the next segment, Billy Davis will join us live and give us insight on a number of different things, including a look inside of what's going on since the passing of the Reverend Billy Graham yesterday, and he works in that department. So we'll get a chance to kind of get caught up with him on that, plus some sports and some other things as well. That's coming up next. First time we've talked to Billy in a few weeks, so I'm looking forward to having him back on. Just a reminder about our friends at Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse. And, I remind you that anytime that you call yourself the anything, you better be able to back it up. They can, and they do on a nightly basis at Hall's Chop House. Billy and his staff do such phenomenal work. The steaks, Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago, that's where it all starts. Rest of the menu comes in falls into place right under that. It's their attention to detail their attention to the customer, and the fact that they can do it with the place packed with, maybe 200, 250 people, whatever it holds when it's full, because it's always full. But the fact that you get the attention as if you're the only person in there, that's the kind of thing that sets them apart. It's just a phenomenal place. You'll love it if you haven't been there. If you have, then you know what I'm talking about. Located downtown, beside the 7 on Main television studio, it is Hall's Chop House, open 7 nights a week for dinner and Sundays for brunch. Please, he said, tell them that you heard about them on the program. All right, as we get things rolling here, let's open up by taking a look at the Southern Conference standings as we play right now. Friday and Sunday are the last 2 regular season days of action in the Southern Conference. As hard as that is to believe, we have made it to the end of the regular season. And with what transpired earlier in the week, we actually have a little bit of drama playing out at the top of the standings, with ETSU now only a game ahead of UNCG after their somewhat inexplicable loss to the Citadel back on Tuesday. But again, this is sports, folks. It's not scripted. Is ETSU a better team than the Citadel? Absolutely they are. But on those one-night, one-time opportunities, you never know what will happen. And Furman knows, all too well about what can happen when the Citadel gets hot, when they came back from that 17-point deficit in the final 9 minutes of the second half in the meeting earlier this month down in Charleston. So ETSU's lead over UNCG is just 1 game right now. So focusing on the top of the schedule, you have UNCG hosting Chattanooga and then hosting Samford in their final 2 games of the regular season. So they should be in good shape, highly favored to win both of those games. ETSU, on the other hand, hosts both Wofford and Furman. And while they will be favored in both of those games, both of those teams are certainly capable of beating ETSU. In fact, Furman came within 4.5 seconds of doing it at Timmons Arena earlier this year. So, and remember, UNCG has already beaten ETSU. So if they somehow end up in a tie, if Greensboro wins both of its games this weekend and ETSU falters once, then UNCG would be the regular season champion by virtue of the tiebreaker. They'd have the same record, but by virtue of the tiebreaker, they would be the regular season champion. So there's some intrigue there. There's still some intrigue for the 3 seed versus the 4 seed. Furman now, because again of what happened on Tuesday, with a game lead on Wofford in that battle for the number 3 seed. And again, we go back to the schedule for this weekend. The Paladins Friday at Western Carolina, favored to win that game. But you know, if you know anything about the history of this series, that is not a fun place to play for anybody. And Furman particularly has had its issues there. I go back again to a season ago. You win 85-37 here at Timmons Arena, and then you go up there and get into what Nico Medved termed a rock fight and pull out a 12-point win. That's how they play at home, and I can't explain it. You have to kind of be there to understand it. Furman, for some reason, oftentimes just does not play well in that arena. Wofford is at ETSU. Now, here's what could happen Friday. If Furman takes care of business at Western Carolina, and if ETSU holds serve against Wofford in Johnson City, then Furman will clinch the number 3 seed. They'll have a 2-game lead with 1 game remaining. And you got to figure that ETSU is going to be loaded for bear in this one after losing to the Citadel and putting themselves back into a situation where one more stumble, and if UNCG does what it should do in those 2 games, they could actually fritter away the regular season championship and the automatic NIT bid if they don't win the tournament. You got to figure they are going to be spitting nails against Wofford on Friday. I think if they're going to lose one of the two, they would be more apt to lose to Furman than they would to Wofford. But, again, in this league, you never know. You never know. Against the Citadel, also, DeSante Bradford did not play. Don't know what his status is going to be for tomorrow night or Sunday moving forward. If we find out, we'll let you know. But he didn't play against the Citadel. But the Paladins could clinch third in the league going into the tournament on Friday if that scenario happens, if the Paladins win at Western and if Wofford loses at ETSU. If Wofford wins, then it goes to Sunday, and then you're talking about a whole different set of circumstances. Wofford at home against Mercer and Furman at ETSU. That would put Wofford kind of in the driver's seat to get back into a flat-footed tie, and then it would go to a tiebreaker. So a lot of things can happen, but you are, as a Furman fan, you're hoping that it's all wrapped up on Friday, that the Paladins take care of business at Western Carolina, and that ETSU is able to beat the Terriers. Below Furman and Wofford, Mercer has laid claim to the number 5 spot. Western Carolina, barring a total collapse, has laid claim to the number 6 spot. Mathematically, Western still could catch Mercer. Mathematically, either Sanford or the Citadel could still catch Western in these final 2 games if Western lost both and one of those teams won both of their games. The likelihood of that happening is not real good. So it looks like the top 6 are pretty safe, but there is that mathematic possibility. Right now, you got to think that Mercer and Furman are the 2 hottest teams in this league, and it's happening at the right time. Again, putting last year in the perspective of hindsight, the 10-game winning streak in the middle of conference play was a heck of an achievement, but then the Paladins lost 3 of their last 4, including the quarterfinal matchup against Sanford in the Southern Conference tournament. So you can look back at that and say, well, they peaked too soon. That's one of those sports terms. Well, the hope now is they're peaking at just the right time and playing their best basketball. And I think you can say the same thing about Mercer. They have struggled all year long, and now all of a sudden they are playing phenomenal basketball, and they've been doing it without Rion Holland, their best player. They are at the Citadel on Friday, and then, as mentioned, at Wofford on Sunday. So they've got the 2-game road swing. And Western Carolina hosts Furman Friday and hosts the Citadel on Sunday. So, again, it looks like those spots are set. But, say this about the Citadel. Mercer's going there. If Mercer falls in Charleston, if the Citadel's able to beat Mercer and Western Carolina loses at home to Furman, then all of a sudden Sunday, that Citadel-Western Carolina game is for a bye in the opening round of the tournament. The winner of that game would get the bye. That would tie them up. So there is a tiebreaker possibility, and I'm not exactly sure what that is right now. But the Citadel would have moved into a tie and ostensibly would be in a position to get the number 6 seed and get the bye and not have to play. So Western Carolina, while mathematically it's in good shape, they would have to lose both games. They're holding on to that 6 seed is not a total certainty at the moment, but you'd have to feel like they were in pretty good shape. But I'm telling you, if they lose Friday and the Citadel knocks off Mercer down in Charleston, that'll be a pretty intriguing game, because the Paladins can tell you from experience, this group of seniors were freshmen, trying to win 4 games in 4 days in any tournament setting is not easy. And as Furman found out, they came up 3 points short in the championship game 3 years ago against Wofford. It's doable, but it certainly is not an easy thing to do. Bottom of the standings, outside of that, Chattanooga and VMI are, one of them is going to be 9, one of them is going to be 10. So there is some intrigue to follow in this last weekend. UNCG still could catch ETSU and get the number 1 spot. Furman trying to lock up the number 3 seed. The difference in 3 and 4, the 3 seed plays at 8:30 on Saturday night, the final game, and the 4 seed plays at 2:30 on on Saturday. 3 seed plays at 8:30 on Saturday night. I'm still hard to sometimes fathom a Friday to Monday tournament instead of a Thursday to Sunday. But it's Friday to Monday, so Furman would play as a 3 seed at 8:30 on Saturday night, and the 4 seed plays at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. So there's a difference there, and you know me, I'm rooting for the 3 seed for 2 reasons. 1, you want to be the highest seed you can be, and 2, if they are the 3 seed, that means I can do baseball in the afternoon and basketball at night, and there won't be any conflict. We'll be able to get both of the broadcasts in. Selfish, maybe, but it also ensures we get both broadcasts in. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, when we come back, we'll get Billy Davis on the horn and spend some time with him before we go out. Just a reminder about my friends at Security Complete, a locally owned security company. They're new in the upstate, but combined, the guys who are running it have over 40 years of industry experience. So you have local ownership and installation and service when it needs service. No subcontractors. You know who's going to come out and take care of the equipment. The systems are customer-owned, and there are no contracts. They don't try to rope you into a 2-year contract for the monitoring service. You can go month by month with that if you like. The latest technology equals low overhead, which in turn means more savings for customers, and the monitoring rates are significantly less per month than the competition. They obviously monitor home intrusion, fire, video, carbon monoxide. They can take care of it all, and they're fully automated. You've got the main part of the system in your house where you can do the punch pad, or what I like is I bring myself back up on screen here. I can arm and disarm my system from anywhere with my phone. I don't have to be in the house to set the alarm or disarm it. I can do it from anywhere, whether I'm in the driveway or whether I'm 1,000 miles away. Security Complete, your source for complete security for home and business. Check them out on Facebook at securitycomplete.com or give them a call at 864-546-0360, 546-0360. All right, to break we go. Billy Davis is coming up on the other side. This is the Dan Scott Show. We'll be back in just a moment. When the Furman baseball team goes on the road, it travels safely, comfortably, and with the latest technology with Jeans Tours and Charters. Jeans has been a Furman favorite for decades and has serviced Furman baseball for over 20 years. Take it from head coach Brett Harker. Book your next road trip with Jeans. Jeans Tours and Charters, online at jeansbussvc.com or call 864-242-1673. Jeans Tours and Charters, servicing the upstate since 1980.
If you've been sidelined by an injury, the St. Francis Sports Medicine team is here 24/7 to get you back on the field. Our highly trained network of physicians, athletic trainers, and physical therapists treat all types of sports-related injuries, even those that don't occur from playing a sport. Call the St. Francis Hurt Line at 675-HURT for priority appointments or at-home advice. Again, that's 675-HURT.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingles, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingles, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
Life's healthier when you're backed by a Greenville Health System primary care doctor. Because then, the doctor that has your back is backed by the more than 1,000 physicians and specialists at the region's leading health system, all working together to bring you the right care in the right place at the right time. Great health starts with a GHS primary care doctor, and there are more than 200 of them conveniently located throughout the upstate, ready to see you. Find yours today at ghs.org/mydoctor.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, we are back. It is 10:27 as we continue on this edition of the Dan Scott Show. I am Dan Scott. That's why the show is named that, so I don't forget the name of the program. Yeah, I have those issues. Quick word about Ridge Media. Don't have any problem telling you about them. Kenny and the gang are a fantastic one-stop shop based here in Greenville that does logo, print, and web design, as well as search engine optimization and marketing. Their clients range from startups to Fortune 500 companies, locally owned marketing firm. And again, they're based in Greenville. They also have an office down in Charleston. So you want to get a free consultation. Will not cost you a dime to have them tell you what they can do for you. Give them a call today at 354-6175, 864-354-6175 for Ridge Media, LLC. All right, happy to have this guy joining us after a few weeks back on the road with Franklin Graham. It is Billy Davis, the former Clemson 2 Sports star, retired U.S. Secret Service agent. He joins us when his schedule allows to talk sports and life and anything else we can drag out of him. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. I guess the last time we talked to you was you had come back from the Dominican. I think we got a couple of weeks in, and then you were off to Bangladesh. Do I have that sequence right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's exactly right. And in between, we had some other stops. So,
yeah.
Out doing the Lord's work around the globe.
Any good takeout food in any of those places?
It was Dominican Republic, yes. Bangladesh, no. No, that's a big zero on that. Yeah.
There's a great story from the world of baseball in the 1960s about a kind of a free-spirited relief pitcher named Mo Drabowski who got on the bullpen phone one night in the middle of an otherwise humdrum season. I think he was with the Orioles at the time, and called a restaurant in Hong Kong and ordered takeout, literally, to go.
Nice.
Yeah. To Baltimore. I'm not sure what condition it was in when it got there, but apparently it made for fun in the bullpen.
I'm sure that was quite. I wonder if he got the bill for the long distance call as well.
I'm sure that his check was docked for that. Without question.
Back in the day.
Before we get into any sports talk, I thought it would be interesting and appropriate for you to give us a little bit of insight as to what's going on in North Carolina right now. I think, as most people know, after doing a lot of freelance stuff in your retirement, you've now been officially working with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Samaritan's Purse for Franklin Graham for a while now. And of course, with the passing of Billy Graham yesterday at age 99, the entire country has been paying homage to him. SiriusXM has launched the Billy Graham Tribute channel, which has been great to see. And a lot of preparations I know are being made for what's going to transpire at the Billy Graham Library with him lying in repose, and ultimately the private funeral service coming up next Friday, I believe. So just kind of give us an idea, man, of what it's been like in the last 24 to 36 hours.
Well, Dan, these preparations and planning for Reverend Graham's journey home have been going on way before I got involved with both BGA and Samaritan's Purse. It goes back a couple of decades. So we've constantly had meetings leading up to this situation, which unfolded yesterday morning. So once the phone calls were made, the plan has started been executed. So just a little background on it. Once they bring Reverend Graham's body from Asheville to Charlotte, that'll happen on Saturday morning in concert with the North Carolina Highway Patrol and the Charlotte Mecklenburg County Police Department and other law enforcement entities in the state of South Carolina. We will move via motorcade procession from Asheville down to the Billy Graham Library there on Billy Graham Parkway in Charlotte, where Reverend Graham will lie in repose Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday is a day of rest for everyone. And then he will continue to lie in repose on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And with the culmination with the funeral on Friday late morning, which is obviously a pretty much invite only. And but everybody will have the opportunity to pay their respects to Reverend Graham next week in Charlotte at the library, which I would encourage everybody to do. And if you've never been to the Billy Graham Library, it's a place that you obviously should visit, and no better time than now.
Yeah, that's something that I have not done, and it is something that is on my list to do very soon. In fact, probably this summer, Angela and I are going to make the trip up to Charlotte and spend a day up there and check it out. Billy, like everybody else, really in the last 60 plus years, you knew who Billy Graham was from his television crusades and everything else. I'm wondering, though, in the last few months, what it's been like working for that organization and kind of even gaining a greater understanding about who he was, what he stood for, how he went about his business. I mean, if you know anything about his life story at all, it's a phenomenal story.
No, it's phenomenal, man, and his impact on millions of people around the world is just, you can't even begin to calculate it. So, and it's been very impactful for me to be able to work in that organization. And I was telling Reverend Franklin Graham this a couple of weeks ago. It really impacted me. Excuse me, Dan. That I was sitting in the library at a meeting a few months ago, and I don't know if anybody really knows my story. I know you do, but one of the people that was instrumental in me being hired by the U.S. Secret Service was Senator Strom Thurmond, who was a Clemson graduate, class 1923. I went up to work for Senator Thurmond in 1988 up on Capitol Hill, and obviously very instrumental in me being hired by the Secret Service. But the long and short of it was, I was sitting in the Billy Graham Library in a meeting in one of the conference rooms, and I just happened to look up on the wall, and there was a picture of Billy Graham and Senator Thurmond sitting together. And to me, that brought it all full circle, that he was up on Capitol Hill, and he was there speaking with Senator Thurmond, and the picture of those two gentlemen together brought it together for me. I felt like I was led to that place for a number of reasons, but that was very impactful for me as the two. Obviously Senator Thurmond had a big part in my life, and then now I work for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, so it was pretty neat for me to see that, just on a personal note.
Yeah.
And then the Graham family, just wonderful people, and I really enjoy being around not only Franklin Graham and Jane Graham, but their children and grandchildren. And my responsibility is to make sure those folks are safe. And so, and they get to do the things they want to do. So I feel like, I tell people for 27 years I worked for the GOV, and now I work for GOD. I serve in that role. So it's very fulfilling for me. And now that Billy Graham has passed on and gone home, our responsibility is to make sure that all the things that surround his going home go off, without a problem. And of course, there'll be a lot of former presidents and dignitaries that'll be in Charlotte a week from tomorrow to celebrate his life and legacy. So I feel honored, absolutely honored to have a little bit of a part in it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that all those years doing what you did, in some ways, kind of prepare you to for this moment.
Yes.
You're putting those same talents and those same skills to work in the same area, just for a different organization.
That is correct. And I feel we've all been prepared one way or another in our lives. And I feel certainly this time, this place in my life, I certainly feel like I'm serving the way I should serve. And hopefully a lot of people, on down the line, feel the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very fulfilling. So, and I don't think anybody realizes the impact that Billy Graham had on the world and on this country. An advisor to 12 separate presidents of the United States, going back to Dwight Eisenhower. That's remarkable. And so anybody that has that, counselor to the president, and a leader and a Christian soldier, I don't think it's hard for people to really imagine. I know folks, especially down south, have a lot more of a appreciation for Billy Graham than some other folks do. But that I don't think anybody can argue his impact on our country and on the world. So he was a great man, and we're going to do everything we can to honor him in this next week. So and his family.
Yeah, and I want to make this one point and let you comment, and then we'll move on to some other things. But being a born and raised Southerner, and what brought this to mind was you talking about the picture of he and Senator Strom Thurmond, a very strong and powerful man, and also an African American man, and Billy Graham took a stand early in his ministry, long before the Civil Rights Movement, about race and racism, and took a stand that was very, very unpopular for a Southern man at that time, talking about how racism was a sin and all men were created equal in the eyes of the Lord. And I think that picture of he and Strom Thurmond just kind of brought that to mind, because in the South at that time, and to a certain degree in the South at this time, that was not and is not a very popular stance.
Yeah, that's correct. Hey, Reverend Graham was out in front about, he insisted that all of his rallies would be desegregated. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that weren't popular, that didn't consider that a very popular opinion at the time. So he was way ahead of the curve in a lot of things.
Yep.
And he's one of the first, Southerners to desegregate his staff. He allowed African American folks on his staff, and still does to this day. So does Franklin Graham. So visionary, and realized how important every person was on the planet. And it would sure be nice if we all got together and realized that. But we live in a pretty divisive time right now, where politics want to separate people and not bring people together. So, I don't know how it's gotten to be that way over the last decade or so, but it certainly has.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we have going down there in the greater Charlotte, Asheville area of North Carolina right now.
Speaking with Billy Davis about what's going on with the preparations for Billy Graham's funeral after his death yesterday, and now we can kind of turn our attention to the world of sports a little bit. Most people know your football acumen. That's where your resume was hung. But we always like to remind people that you're a bit of a baseball guy as well. And quite honestly, I think your Bill Wilhelm stories are funnier than anything you tell, where your time at Furman football was concerned. But Coach had that impact on people, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I've told you before, and not to repeat myself, but the year I played for Bill Wilhelm at Clemson means as much or more to me than the 4 years I played Clemson football. And I just really enjoyed being around Coach Wilhelm. And he, like I said before, Dan, he really liked me because he used to say all the time, and Billy Davis, I love having you around. All you cost me is a glove and a pair of shoes. So, and he'd say, yeah. So, because I was on a full football ride, and then didn't cost him anything on the baseball side of it. So, but he was gracious enough to, one of the reasons I went to Clemson was to have the opportunity to play baseball. Wasn't afforded the opportunity until my junior year, and then I was able to come out and make the team and start a number of games for the Tigers after not playing organized baseball for 3 years. So, and the story on down the line is probably baseball was my better sport. So I have a certain love and affinity for the game, even though, I played 1 year at Clemson. So that's I could talk about that forever, another story for another day. But yeah, Coach Wilhelm had a great impact on a lot of guys. Obviously, the College Baseball Hall of Fame. Was Clemson's coach, I believe, from 1957 to about 1993 or 94. And then, Coach Leggett took over. Excuse me. And that's why I had such a close relationship with Jack Leggett as well, because I think a lot of us looked at Jack as an extension of Coach Wilhelm. And so, took a lot of pride and a lot of joy of the things that Jack accomplished over the years. And now, of course, Monty Lee is there and hope to take the program to the next level. So they're right there, seem to be on the cusp. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, Major League pitchers and catchers are down there in Florida and Arizona getting ready. So
yeah,
it won't be much longer before, they're playing in Cincinnati and D.C. and Baltimore and Atlanta and everywhere else. And, the beat goes on. It's I think we all look forward to the coming of spring and summertime and being able to talk baseball. And I know Furman is looking forward to having another really good year of baseball as well. It's like they appears to have a really good ball team down there in Greenville.
And in fact, the first spring training games start tomorrow. So we'll actually have some live game action to be taking in starting as early as tomorrow. We continue to visit with Billy Davis. I wanted to ask you about something, because I've been having some conversations with people lately about the direction of college sports and how it even trickles down to our level here at the FCS level. I'm talking specifically about football, and even at our level, how facilities matter, and Furman had to do something, and it did 4 years ago, and thankfully we live in a great great building now that football operates out of, and it's best in the conference, but it had been allowed to not be that way for a long time, and they're doing things on a level nowhere near like what goes on over at Clemson or any of the other big schools from a fundraising standpoint, that they hope is going to allow this football team not just to compete now, but to compete at the highest level at our division long term. Nobody loves their school more than you. When you talk about your love for Clemson, I think people can just feel it coming through the phone. Having said that, though, the direction that the sport has taken, the direction the game has taken, and I'm talking about the facilities and the money and the TV contracts and everything that's turned it into more of a business than a sport, has it robbed you of your joy any at all, or do you still love it as much as you used to?
No, I love it as much or more than I ever did.
Really?
I think it's fantastic. Oh, yeah. I'm not one of those guys. That's just the American way. That's just how we're all wired, I believe, Dan. Is it big business? Yeah, but it was big business back when I was at Clemson. It just doesn't, back then we didn't have social media, and ESPN was in its infancy. and there was just the print media. Basically, there was no sports talk radio. There was no Dan Scott show back in the day, or Mike and Mike, or Mike and whatever it is, Golick and whatever the heck they call it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just what we've come to as an athletic realm, especially at the Division I level. But the way I look at it is, it's just, take for instance this year. I had a list of people that came to me that are friends of mine or acquaintances, or somewhere between an acquaintance and a friend, that had children that were, seniors in high school and have applied to Clemson. I mean, I had guys call me from Boston, from L.A., from Las Vegas, or points in between here in Northern Virginia. Hey, I know you're really wired into Clemson. Is there any way that you could call down there or write a letter for my... So for them to get to Clemson, and a part of that is the fact that the football, make no mistake, Clemson is a top 25 public school now in the United States. But the football program has brought so much positive media exposure to the university that Clemson has become one of these it schools now. I mean, it is, and why is because what I talked about on your show back in 2010, that the athletic department and the administration of Clemson got together and figured out, well, you know what? If we can do this the right way and hold them to a high academic standards, high ethical standards, and if we have a great football program, we're getting free publicity for up to 3.5 to 4 hours at a time on a Saturday or a Monday night or a Friday night or a Thursday night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it builds and it keeps building, and there's a momentum that you can get. And I tell people too, it's funny, I had a mother who's our daughters swim together. This lady is originally from South Africa. She approached me last year about her daughter, who's a fantastic swimmer. This was my daughter, and she's a senior this year up at McLean High School in Virginia. Anyway, her mom came to me and she said, I have a couple of questions for you about some schools that our daughter is interested in. I said, well, go ahead, shoot. And she said, well, first of all, she's been contacted by this school called Notre Dame. Do you know anything about this school? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I said, I almost went there. I said, it's a fantastic private school. It's a Catholic school. I said, its academic reputation is unparalleled. But I said, when you say Notre Dame in this country, people think one thing. They think football. They think Touchdown Jesus and Newt Rockne and the Golden Dome and the Four Horsemen. I said, make no mistake. I said, it's a great school. When you say Notre Dame to most people, they automatically think football. And so that is Notre Dame's way of opening up a door to, and whether it's you're watching them in basketball, you're watching them in football, and they have their own TV contract, and it attracts those great students they have at Notre Dame. And at Clemson now is evolved into the same thing, where these people realize, like I said 8 years ago on your show, it's the front porch, it's the front door to
Mm-hmm.
the academic side of the house. So make no mistake, I love it to death. The interesting part for me is that I have one daughter that's 20 and one daughter that's 16, so I watch these young men play football or basketball or baseball for Clemson, and they're in the same age group as my daughters now, so it takes on a little bit different tone. I don't find myself being quite as disappointed or quite as critical of those kids as maybe I was 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So a little bit different perspective on it.
Age and family has a way of doing that to you, doesn't it?
Isn't it funny? Yeah, I love those, but I love those kids that play for Clemson and the staff, like, as the family that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. It doesn't take anything away from me. I'm not one of those guys that's always got too commercial or whatever. So I do believe I'm not going to go down the road of athletes, and sometimes I think that their positions politically or whatever, I can go down that road some other time. We can talk about that. But sometimes in the Twitterverse that we live in, and Facebook and Snapchat and all these other things, people are given a voice sometimes that really don't even really deserve to have a voice.
Oh, yeah.
But they have it. So, anyway, that's it. But to answer your question, a very long-winded answer, which I'm famous for doing, is no, it doesn't take anything away from me.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, listen, given everything that's going to be happening up there between now and next Friday, am I to assume that we probably need to wait another week before we dial you up again?
Yeah, it's going to be, next week I'm going to be totally out of pocket for obvious reasons. But, yeah, I'll keep you posted, offline, Dan. I'm sure I'll talk to you in the next couple of days or keep you posted or text back and forth. And, hopefully I'll be back online, not next week, but the week after.
Yeah.
Okay?
I hope so. Looking forward to it, buddy.
Thanks for having me on, Dan. I really appreciate you making me semi-relevant. And take care of yourself. Okay?
All right, Billy. Thank you, man. That's our buddy Billy Davis joining us here on the show. We need to step out for a break. We'll come back, and we are getting ready to wrap things up. Tell you about that possible baseball thing we were talking about when we come back. Stay with us. Dan Scott Show on a Thursday. Coming back after this. The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
Holding, number 79, defense, first down. I'm also holding a party tonight.
Great call by the official. Looks like we've got another flag on the field.
Holding, a Pepsi. Necessary refreshment.
Hey, Ted, bring some of that Pepsi to my party.
Pepsi and the NFL. Welcome to the Fun Doesn't End Zone.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Back, final segment of the show. Our thanks to Billy Davis for joining us there. I'm Dan Scott. You can already see the Walk a Mile Project logo on your screen. Walk a Mile Project's a 501c3 nonprofit humanitarian aid organization whose goal is to organize, build, encourage, and invest in ways to meet the physical needs of impoverished communities around the world. What do? Well, they encourage and equip groups on how to go, how to prepare for a trip, how to form a trip, how to raise funds, and then how to do when they get there. That's how to build houses, feed a village, conduct medical clinics, etc. It is a phenomenal work that these folks are doing, and you can come alongside them and partner with them by supporting them or get your organization involved to get some training on how to go and do some of these things. You see the website there, thewamproject.org, thewamproject.org for the Walk a Mile Project. Please tell them you heard about them here on the show. All right, so apparently, I don't listen to a lot of national sports talk radio because what I do on a daily basis is mind-numbing enough. I don't need talking heads yelling at me all the time. But apparently, Rich Eisen yesterday, well, not apparently because I had the clip, I'm going to play it for you, said that he is hearing some whispers from some execs, and he didn't go into any detail, but that there may be a major foundation-shaking rule change at least being discussed kind of behind the scenes for Major League Baseball. Take a listen to what Rich Eisen said, and then I'll be back with some thoughts about it here in just a minute.
There is a rule that has been whispered, discussed. Again, I am not familiar as to how close this would be to reality, but there are some who are discussing this. Baseball is truly the only sport where game on the line, final inning, any other sport, final seconds. Baseball is the only sport where, by mere randomness and happenstance, because of a batting order, the best players are not out on the field with the game on the line. Potentially, you're down by 2, ninth inning, you've got 7, 8, 9 up. And that's the way it's got to be,
goes, man.
Right? And you can pinch hit, but sometimes your best hitters are not coming off the bench because your best hitters are your 3-4 hitters who, because of randomness, are not up with the game on the line. Here's the rule change. In the ninth inning only, not 8th inning, not 7th, not extras, 9th inning only, you are allowed to send up to the plate as your first 3 hitters whoever you want.
Now, again, Eisen says that is something that's being whispered about in a discussion form behind the scenes. So take it for what it's worth. My reaction to that is you got to be kidding. Really? I mean, a game that has built itself and what it's about and the way it's played over the course of more than 150 years, and you're talking about making a change like that. That's a fundamental part of the game, part of managing a team and part of putting a lineup together is putting those guys out there who you think are going to give you the best chance to win. And yeah, you have to go in order, and yeah, that's the way it falls sometimes. But to just be able to pull 3 random guys up and put your 3 best hitters up, I get that in football and in basketball that they're those players, the best players are on the field at the end of the game. I get that. I really do. But baseball it is unique and standalone. It's not supposed to be like the other sports. It's not timed. The defense has the ball. And so to try to take baseball as a round peg and put it into a square hole to fit what other sports are doing is an absolute atrocious line of thinking. And you've got already the massive discussions that are ongoing about the length of games and pace of play and everything else. And one of the ridiculous things that they're experimenting with in spring training and apparently at the All-Star game this year is if it goes extra innings, they're going to experiment with starting a runner at second base, like high school and college softball, fast pitch softball in extra innings. And look, the only people that really care about the game of baseball, the only people who are complaining about the length of the game are the TV executives and the owners, really. And the TV executives, they want something that's going to fit into a nice, tight 3-hour window. And, hey, we're paying all the money, so we're going to try to influence the decision. They're the ones who care most about it. Here's the reality. Now, I agree with pace of play. I really do. I don't have a problem. I don't know if you saw the new rule that was put in this week that's going to limit the number of trips to the mound to 6 without having to make a pitching change. And that is whether it's the manager or the pitching coach coming out or the catcher going to the mound to talk to the pitcher. I mean, every single time a new pitcher comes out or a pinch hitter comes up or sometimes multiple times within the course of a single at-bat, the catcher is wearing out a path between home plate and the mound, and it just gets unnecessary. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of a pitch clock, but I think we're probably going to see that coming sooner rather than later, and we have that already in the college game at some levels anyway, and that is only when there's nobody on base. It changes. But the issue is pace of play. I've never heard anybody go to a game that lasted 3 hours that if the pace of the play was good, complained about being there too long. I have been to some games that were 2 hours and 2.5, 2 hours and 45 minutes that seemed like they were 6 hours long because the pace was excruciating. It's not the length of the game. It's the pace of play. And these are things that used to be basic tenets of the game of baseball. And over the years, things change. I understand that. But, everything from walk-up music to guys stepping out of the box after every pitch to pitchers taking forever to throw the baseball to the multiple meetings and going on. These are the things that you bring back in, that you rein in to get the pace of play up. Don't mess with the fabric of the game and putting runners at second base to start extra innings or even something like this to get your quote-unquote best players on the field at the end of the game if you're the trailing team in the ninth inning. It's unconscionable that this discussion would even be going on. I think Major League Baseball, whoever is having this discussion, somebody needs to step back and say, wait a minute. Okay, there are certain things that we can mess with. There are certain things that we can't mess with. And the integral parts of the game are things that we simply cannot mess with. There are reasons that the game has survived over the years. There's no more perfect symmetry in the world, in any sport, than 90 feet between home and first or between any bases. I mean, if you look over the course of a game, over the course of a season, the number of bang-bang plays at first base, you get the idea and the appreciation and the realization that 90 feet is perfect. 89 feet wouldn't work. 91 feet wouldn't work. 90 feet is perfect. So there are tenements of the game that you don't change. Pace of play, I get it. And that is a personal charge to players. Again, pitchers. And I never understood why pitchers would take forever to throw the ball anyway, because, the more time you take between pitches, your defense gets back on its heels, and, are we ever going to get going here? And you work quickly. Everybody is more attentive, and the game flows better. But, putting a runner at second base to start extra innings, a high school softball rule, is the most ludicrous thing I think I've ever heard. And I don't like the idea, even though I honestly believe it's something that would never happen. Just a mere idea that there are some idiots who are discussing changing the way that you can approach the ninth inning if you're behind and put your three best players up regardless of where they are on the order. I don't like it at all. That's why the game is so great, because it gives everybody a chance to be the hero. And you don't get to pick your moment. The moment picks you. And with that, I'll get off my soapbox. Be with you tomorrow, and then Tom Van Hoy and I will be heading to Western Carolina for basketball as Furman begins the final weekend of regular season play against the Catamounts up in Cullowhee at 7 o'clock. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Also more of a baseball preview for Brett Harker's Paladins versus NC State. Until then, you folks have yourself a great rest of your day, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning. I'm Dan Scott. God bless you. So long, everybody.